Good morning, one and all. A very warm welcome to this next screening in the Films4Transparency Festival, a key part of the International Anti-Corruption Conference program. My name is Daniel Bruce, and I'm the Chief Executive of Transparency International UK, and it's my great pleasure to be introducing you to this session this morning and to be moderating the discussion that we'll have with some of the contributors to this morning's film once we've all had a chance to watch the documentary over the next hour or so. In my own anti-corruption work and with that of my colleagues in the UK and elsewhere, I think it's always important for us to take a moment to challenge ourselves to ensure that everything that we do and everything that we try to communicate to our stakeholders and our advocacy targets, if you like, is ever grounded in the real human impact of corruption on ordinary people's lives, both in terms of those that are affected by having resources deprived because of corrupt practice, but as we shall see in this incredibly powerful documentary, the immense human cost in a number of countries for those who seek to investigate, challenge, and go after the corrupt, often with devastating and indeed fatal consequences. And I'm really pleased that we have a couple of people who are in the film this morning to form part of our discussion once we have watched behind closed doors as it takes us on this journey through Azerbaijan, Kenya, and Pakistan, and then through to the City of London as well. But to tell you a little bit more about the film before we watch it and to introduce this morning's session, would you please give a warm welcome to the director of Behind Closed Doors, Michael Oswald.
So first of all, thank you very much to the IACC and to Films4Transparency for giving us the opportunity to show this film here. And I think I also need to thank for the introduction by the Google algorithm to Films4Transparency, to the selection process. So I made this film together with Murtaza Mehdi, who unfortunately is not able to join us today. And Murtaza contacted me originally to make a film about Pakistan and the Sharif family. And initially I was unsure because I felt like, well, what can I offer, contribute to a film about Pakistan? And so we discussed how the film might look like and decided to focus on Britain's role in encouraging money laundering and corruption in the developing world and to frame it in that way. And one of the things that really excited me about this film was the opportunity to go to Pakistan and speak to the government in Pakistan about their efforts in trying to repatriate money and cracking down on corruption. And that is why I'm really happy that one of the people joining us on the panel today is Shazad Akbar, who was the head of the asset recovery unit in the Pakistani government at the time. Another person joining us is Emin Huseynov. And I was actually in this room yesterday, and I heard one of the speakers say that organized crime, at a certain point, they realize that it's much more lucrative and much more effective if they own a bank. Because the money laundering is much easier and you can steal money much easier. But then at a certain point, they realize, actually, it's a bit dangerous. So it's even better if we can run the country. And Emin Huseynov's story is really a kind of encapsulates that. With his experiences in Azerbaijan and his work to try and hold those in Azerbaijan accountable. So I think that is enough for me now. We'll have the film is 1 hour long, and we have 1 hour for Q&A and the panel discussion, so please stay for that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you everyone once again for joining this screening this morning. We have time now for a discussion with Michael Oswald, the director, who you've already introduced, and I'll introduce my fellow panelists in just a moment. For those of you who weren't here at the start, my name is Daniel Bruce, and I'm the Chief Executive of Transparency International UK. And again, it's a pleasure to be here to take us through this discussion in response to this film. Sitting to my right is hopefully a face that you will recognise from the film, Shazad Akbar of Pakistan, former prosecutor, human rights lawyer, and the first Minister of Anti-Corruption in Pakistan, whose testimony we will unpack a little bit further in a moment. And going back to the earlier part of the film, Emin Huseynov from Azerbaijan, the journalist we saw there. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion among the four of us here just to start, and then do you have your questions ready, and I'll come out to the floor in a short while. And I promise that we will finish in good time in order for you still to get to the lunch hall while there's some hot food available as well. But Michael, if I can start with you, please, and actually let's just go straight to that subtext at the end, and if I can take the audience back to the image of Arshad Sharif, the Pakistani journalist who we saw surrounded by his mountains of papers, whose testimony and investigation seems so critical to the story that we were telling here. Tragically, you see at the end of that film that he lost his life subsequent to your making of this film. Can you tell us a little bit more about the context of that and where we are in terms of accountability?
Thank you for that question. So first of all, I'd just like to say that when we initially reached out to people in Pakistan, it was Arshad Sharif who immediately replied and said, yes, you must make this film, you must come to Pakistan. And we hadn't secured any other interviews apart from his when we arrived in Pakistan, and we weren't sure whether any other ones were going to happen, but he was 100% behind us making this film. What happened was that, as you saw in the film, Imran Khan was deposed, and then the TV station ARY that Arshad Sharif worked for was closed down as for a while, I think for a number of months, and then when it reopened, Arshad and another journalist were no longer there. And Arshad received threats, so he left Pakistan, and initially he went to the UAE, but he couldn't stay there because of visa issues. And one of the places that Pakistani can go without needing a visa is Kenya. So he ended up in Kenya, and that's where he was tragically shot by the police in unexplained circumstances. And I was just... It's a very strange story because he was spending the day at a shooting range that was apparently also used to train Kenyan police. And on the way back from there, someone else was driving. Apparently, there was a police roadblock or something similar, and he was assassinated. And the police claimed it was a case of mistaken identity. Now, I've spoken to a Kenyan person here, and the general feeling in Kenya to this day and at the time was that actually this was a kind of a government-to-government thing, that this may have been orchestrated at quite a high level. So disappointingly, there has been no real investigation, not through the media, not through pressure by international organizations to try and put pressure on Kenya or to make funds available to raise awareness of what happened to Arshad and what we can do about it. Thank you. Yeah.
So just to be clear, that to the best of your knowledge at the moment, there is no formal process or investigation around what happened to Arshad in Kenya.
Well, I know that a team from Pakistan, probably Shazad can elaborate on this, but a team from Pakistan did go to Kenya, and then I think in the end they kind of claimed that. Well, I don't think they were able to do their investigation properly, and that there seemed to have been interference both in Kenya and in Pakistan, so that they were not able to carry out a real investigation. I don't know if you want to pick up on that.
Yeah. So first of all, Arshad's killing was a targeted assassination, and his departure from Pakistan was due to the threats to life, and he had been writing to the even judges, courts, chief justices that he's receiving threats. But after the regime change, there was no protection, so he did not have any visa. So he basically fled to the UAE, where he was pursued by Pakistani intelligence ISI. And actually, he didn't have a visa issue. His visa was valid for 3 more months, but his visa was cancelled by UAE under request by Pakistan. And I think the UAE basically did a favor to Arshad, saying, we've been asked to hand you over, which we are not going to, but we ask you to leave. And that's when Arshad actually left for Kenya. And then from Kenya, he started his journalism again, and he started reporting what he had been doing for the last 25 years on corruption, but this time he was focusing on the corruption by the military and especially the Pakistani army chief. And that's when he was assassinated. After his assassination, his dead body was brought back, and you can check online, the funeral was probably the biggest of Pakistan's history. And there was and the military to basically control the live coverage of that, because even the journalist community was coming out to stop that. The 3 top generals did a 3 hours long press conference trying to tell that they are not behind this assassination. The things went up to that level that a committee of investigators was formed by the Supreme Court to investigate his murder, and they went to Kenya, investigated, and they submitted the initial report. Now, interestingly, that initial report, which is submitted to Supreme Court, is dated 2022, end of 22.